Appleton on News Talk 580 1059 KMJ.
Ladies and gentlemen, my friends, welcome to hour number 2 of what I have called Good News, Bad News Day. And this is definitely bad freaking news right now as we talk about SB1, the Road Repair and Accountability Act of 2017, or why I'm going to be filing voluntary bankruptcy very soon because I really don't want to have to in California. Joining us, the ever-present watchdog of our dollars in the state of California, one of the few Republicans in the legislature that, responds to us in a very big way, the former 2-term strong mayor of the Fresno, California area, Assemblyman Jim Patterson. How are you, my friend?
I'm doing good, Ray. I'm going to join you with the bankruptcy.
Yeah, pretty bad. This one barely cleared, as I understand it, the 2/3 hurdle needed to pass. But nonetheless, it cleared, didn't it?
It did, and there were 3 Democrats that when the first roll call was put up, held off. They did not vote. And if you were watching it or if you were there like I was, you saw, I think, some of the most corrupted efforts by the Democrats to buy off these members in order to vote.
Like what?
Well, we actually have some video. So they're working them on the floor. They're threatening committee assignments, things like. They're literally saying we'll put somebody up against you in the primary.
Oh God.
And in fact, one particular member was actually, they went off the floor, and there was actually a little bit of kind of pushing and shoving and kind of let's just say there was a whole lot of pressure put on these 3 individuals, and it was something to watch. It was eye-opening that this kind of behavior.
But they made no effort to cover this up. It was just in front of God and everybody, huh?
We have video of it.
How does one see this video?
Well, we took several, 2 or 3 Republican members were actually shooting a video. I'm not sure how we're going to distribute it and all of that.
YouTube is a very useful tool for such things.
It is there, and we took it on purpose because we knew this was coming. But you also saw. This thing has gotten ladled up with over $1 billion of pork.
Of course. That
goes to winning the votes of the assembly members down in Riverside and the Senate member down in Riverside, and also to get the vote of Anthony Canella up in the Merced area. And Ray, this is $1 billion on top of everything else. We're supposed to be repairing roads and streets and highways with this, right? Well, the $500 million that goes to getting Senator Canella's vote is no road, no highway, no street repair. It's a train.
It's a train.
It's a park. It's just, this is, it's very disturbing how far the California legislature has gone in buying votes from these members. It is blatant. I mean, I'm not going to suggest that it's at the point of maybe something criminal, but just because something isn't expressly illegal doesn't mean it's right. So I had an interesting night yesterday, last evening. We were there till about 11 or 12. Literally, the Democrats had one of their members take sick, go to the hospital, and another member went off the floor, got in her car, went to the hospital, picked that person up, and came back, and that person voted for it getting off of the sickbed. That's how close they were to losing this. So, interesting evening.
Yeah, I mean, amazing stories, but I'm not surprised. I am not surprised at all.
But the substance of the bill is really, junk, and we can talk about that if you'd like. But I think California, the people of California know that Jerry Brown and the Democrats have had their fingers in the cookie jar, and they've been caught red-handed. And the people of California know it. And so when we talk about this amounts for their automobile registrations over a long, long period of time, and I think the people of California have every reason to ask, where the heck did the money go? I have a few examples of where that money has gone.
We would love to hear them.
And but what we have is we basically have billions of dollars of refilling our road repair funds because they've been raided and diverted in the past, and the voters know that. A couple of examples. I think it was maybe a couple of weeks back, the Finance Department and the Governor's Office, aided and abetted by the California legislature, approved selling billions of bonds for the high-speed rail. The source of the money to pay back the $650 million every year for 30 years, that's $19.5 billion principal and interest payment, comes from, you ready? The California Highway Protection Fund.
What the hell is that?
It's exactly what it's supposed to do, but the Democrats raid it. It is the depository of where millions upon millions of dollars go for road repair, street repair. And it is expressly titled the California Road Operational and Protection Fund. It is from that fund that they're taking $650 million every year. That's why I say this is a bait and switch. What we really are seeing is a large amount of this tax increase going to pay for high-speed rail. So this is what I mean by bait and switch. The high-speed rail bond, for example, should be paid out of the general fund. It is a general obligation bond. It is backed by the good faith and credit of the state of California. And those bonds are paid by the general fund. And the Democrats have found a way to take that money that has been deposited in the protection account for our roads and highways and actually divert it to high-speed rail bonds.
So I've been saying for 2 weeks, if this thing were to pass, which it did, that this money, somehow, some way, even with all these promises and protections in the right hand on the Bible, could be taken for high-speed rail. Is that what you're telling us? This will be taken for high-speed rail?
What I'm telling you is that the fund to pay the high-speed rail bond, which is the Highway Protection and Operational Fund, gets its deposits by the gasoline tax, by the excise tax on gas, by all of the fees and taxes that we pay at the pump and for driving and for the cost of fuel and for the registration of our automobiles. There are a variety of sources that fill up that fund, and that fund historically has been used for what its title infers, which is the Operational and Protection Fund. So, I mean, it is a bait and switch. I mean, it really is something that I think the more people learn, the more I think angry they will become. Out of this $5-some-odd billion every single year, this is all new taxation. Increased excise taxation on your fuel, increased sales taxation, increased fuel tax, and an increase in the car tax. 30% of it, $1.5 billion of all that pot of money, goes to everything else except road, street, highway repair. What does it go to? Goes to maybe some parks. It goes to some bike trails out up in the countryside. It goes to some expenditures with planning, grants, and bureaucratic paperwork requirements. So that you start off by skimming 30% of that should be going to roads and highways, and you spend it on all kinds of other things.
But how is this justified?
It's justified, I guess, because they have the power to do it. They do it, they say they do it, and they say as long as it touches quote-unquote transportation. I guess if you ride a bike up in the countryside...
Exactly what I said. As long as it touches the T word.
That's not what gas taxes, gasoline excise taxes, that's not what the sales tax on a gallon of gasoline, that we add, in the state of California, 2.5% onto the sales tax that's in our region for a gallon of gas already. And by the way, that's going to go up in this bill as well. So let's say that it's 7.5 cents a gallon. It's 7.5 cents. The 7.5% is our tax. We're going to add 2.5 additional percent. So now you've got a 10%, let's say, on sales tax on a gallon of gas. That is going to go up as well. So it is. I think people also need to understand that they're peeling off literally billions for transit, and they're calling it transportation. In other words, they're going to put it into buses, and they're going to put it into trains. Buses and trains in California have been getting tons of money. We get billions from the feds for buses. A lot of the federal money helps us pay for the buses that the city of Fresno has. If Fresno had to pay for the price of running the city buses from the fare box, we'd be broke. We get lots of money from the feds to keep the buses running. Every single light rail line, is subsidized in one way or another. So I think the bigger gripe for me here is, if you're going to tax fuel, they say this is a user's tax. They justify it by saying, if you use the roads, you're going to pay for it. Well, you're using the roads, and you're paying for a huge amount of subsidy for trains and for buses. Trains and buses have alternative funding sources that you should not rob the gas tax and not repair street roads and highways. One other big point on this, and I think people would be really surprised. I'm still digging into the bill to try to find out whether it's 3% or it might be 5% of the entire 5-point-some-odd billion. And by the way, this is permanent. It's every single year for far out as the eye can see. They say, well, we're going to use it for 10 years. There's nothing in this that sunsets it. Nothing. So I think this looks permanent. But it's either 3% or something. It's a very, very small amount of money that will go to capacity building. What does that mean? It means we've got gridlock, right? We have got highways, streets, and freeways that have gridlock. None of this money goes to relieving that gridlock. In other words, it doesn't build any new lanes, it doesn't build any new capacity. And of that 3%, maybe 5%, you can only use it to increase capacity on an HOV lane or a bike lane. By the way, both bike lanes and HOV lanes actually have capacity. They're really reducing capacity for most drivers, right? So if you have a dedicated lane that's an HOV, right, and only people can drive in it, and down in Los Angeles, most of that you can only drive in it. You can't drive. You drive in it all the time if you have the HOV sticker. You got a couple extra people in the car. So you end up with a less than high capacity use of that lane, because not everybody uses it. And then you add bike lanes to some of this stuff, and what you end up doing is reducing the capacity and the flow level of a standard street, arterial, collector, or freeway.
This is just incredible. Jim, hold on for a minute. I've got to take a break here. People, I hope you're hearing this. It's our worst nightmare has come to pass. If you'd like some action on this yourself, 490-5858 for Assemblyman Jim Pattison. This is KMJ.
The Republican Party is at its lowest ebb ever, for around 25%. That's because they're doing nothing. The Democratic Party is the party of doing things. And tonight we did something to fix the roads in California.